Welcome to Franchise Killer. Woo! This is a podcast where we talk about movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. All right.
You sound like
funny,
we're on a
guys.
we're on a game show.
Was that close?
Ew.
Did you like that
Yeah,
energy?
no, that was good. I liked it a lot, actually. I think that compared to some of these other ones you've done, that was less like, that's Robin Williams-esque. That's on another lever.
Another lever?
It's on another lever.
David on his fifth beer? No, how many is that?
That is
One?
2.
That's David on one beer, by the way. 2 beers.
On no beers. I would do this with no beers.
So good luck with
Nobody
your-
knows the difference.
Good luck at the end of the night.
Look, all I know is that we should definitely try to improv this the way that Robin Williams improv this entire movie.
Yeah,
You mean like how we do every single episode?
I guess we do improv, don't we?
Not really. Unsuccessfully. I
Yeah,
would
we're
say.
not
Very
funny.
unsuccessfully.
That's the problem.
The fact that all that stuff in this movie is ad-libbed is absolutely insane.
Yep.
Or at least all the stuff he does when he's
On the
actually
radio.
on
It is
the radio.
crazy.
Like, how do you just have that?
So-
like, I know he prepares,
Yeah.
but it's still just crazy.
So I think he has a sheet of paper with certain points in history and certain jokes that he has in mind, and then he takes those and riffs off them for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think we watched a whole behind the scenes thing of him just nonstop. It was probably 20 minutes of him just talking.
It
just
seemed
nonstop.
exhausting.
I don't understand him. That guy is an anomaly. But I'm Reese. Across from me we have,
David.
to his left,
Irina.
to my right,
Second Lieutenant Stephen Hawk.
also known as
Noah.
And unfortunately, AJ is not with us tonight.
He's
He is,
MIA.
Yeah, he's hosting another radio show somewhere
In Saigon.
in Saigon. Yeah,
That's where all the cinnamon comes from.
yeah, he was needed. But yeah, he'll be providing his input on this episode. He'll give us the score and perhaps turn in a recorded review as well. So we'll insert that if he does in fact do that. But we'll definitely be. We do have his score for the movie. He did watch it. And just unfortunately, he's tied up tonight and had
He's
other.
AFK, MIA, and the DMZ.
Yeah. Good. I'm liking the acronyms.
Heck yeah.
Good job.
That's what I'm here for.
The movie we're talking about, of course, is Good Morning, Vietnam.
It's good morning. Good
It's
morning.
the title is Good Morning, Vietnam.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, actually. I wish you could convey a loudness just through text alone.
No, it's just Good Morning, Vietnam.
Good morning to all of you out there who's listening to this podcast. Just good morning.
No, we're talking about Good Morning, Vietnam.
I just
I had to
love
do it one
that
time.
anytime someone says the name of this movie, they have to do that.
No, it's something you don't realize is a knee jerk, but when you do hear it, like you have to shout it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
one of those things where if you're doing it on a podcast, you have to spike the levels. Like, it has to be clipping 100%. Right?
Yeah.
No, it's not, apparently. My producer's looking at me and he's giving me the no, don't do it.
The movie came out in 1987. It's the oldest Robin Williams movie we're talking about.
Wow, I guess it is. Which is weird because he's done significant work before this.
Yeah, we've had all early 90s movies so far, and now, well, this is his big breakout role, actually. He had been in Mork and Mindy and a couple of other things, but this was the big, like, coming out party for
Right.
Robin Williams as, like, a big A-list star.
It
Yeah.
wasn't Popeye?
He was in it,
But it didn't do
I
so
think
well.
This was the first where people actually recognized him as a talent that was more than just kind of a show character.
This is the first movie that would not work, at least for what it's going for, if it was not Robin Williams, I feel like.
No one else could do this role because nobody could talk as fast as him.
Yeah.
This was a role made for him.
It was. It kind of truly was because they did just let him do his thing.
Yeah. This movie was directed by Barry Levinson, who also directed The Natural, Young Sherlock Holmes, Rain Man, Avalon, Bugsy, Toys, Sleepers, and Wag the Dog, among other
I knew
films.
one of those.
So.
Yeah.
You know a few of them. You know The Natural and Young Sherlock Holmes and Rain Man.
I knew Rain Man.
You don't know The Natural, that baseball classic?
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
either.
God.
I did watch Young Sherlock Holmes. Man, I forgot that movie.
The movie stars Robin Williams, Forrest Whitaker, Tung Tan Tran, Chinatra Sukapatana, Bruno Kirby, and Robert Wool. It's written by Mitch Markowitz, who's also responsible for a number of TV shows, most notable MASH and Monk.
I thought this had a MASH sort of
I
feel
think
to it.
That's kind of what helped land him this gig,
does.
honestly. That mix of comedy amidst a war scene,
Right.
almost. I mean, this is like pre-Vietnam War, right? Am I correct? Like it's like ramping up.
It's in the beginning.
Yeah, it's like ramping up to it. But yeah, tensions are high. Yeah, MASH is notably known as that show that's like, it's war, but you never see the war because it's
Right.
more just like
It's kind of the lives of the soldiers within this
with like kind
time.
of a comedic bent to it.
Yeah. Where they're all kind of done with what they're doing, you know, like they don't actually want to be there, but
Going through the motions.
Yeah.
All right, just a fact check here. So this is 1965 in the movie, and the war started in March 1965. So this is like right when it
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
And
Well,
you
that's
get
what
to-
they're.
You get the
supposed to be doing.
sense that things are ramping up here. Yeah. Which and
Not just a sense. They have a bombing.
yeah. Anyway, for those that are new to this show, on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews with numbered scores, along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it. So you guys, had y'all seen Good Morning Vietnam before your prep for this episode? David?
Yeah, I definitely have. I saw it one time. I was in high school. One of those times my mom's like, hey, have you seen Good Morning Vietnam? I feel like I heard a reference to it.
Is that your mom's exact words? Hey,
Hey.
have you seen Good Morning Vietnam?
No, I think it was more like I heard a reference to it somewhere when she was around. And I was like, what is that referencing? And she's like, oh, yeah, it's a movie with Robin Williams. I was like, all right, gotta check that out. And she's like, 100%. That's my mom, 100%.
100%.
100%.
She actually texted you the 100
Yeah.
emoji.
I think we actually went to the movie store, you know, the one in our town. Was it like not Hollywood
Oh,
Video?
yeah, I know the
something
one
like that.
in your town.
Blockbuster.
Yeah, I don't know. One of those ones before they all closed up. It was like a local video store. But yeah, we rented it from there. So
Cool story, David.
it's fun times.
Irina.
I definitely had. Just once, though. I don't remember the circumstances that brought me to watch it, but it is one of those movies where you see it once and you feel like you don't have to watch it several times after that. At least for me. Maybe there's someone out there where this is their comfort movie or they just gotta watch it regularly. But I feel like you get the story. It's a little bit heavy, you know, so you kind of can go a while without watching it again.
Noah.
Never.
This is the first time for you.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Excited to hear what you think.
Yeah, for me, I had seen this, but not too long ago. I'd seen it maybe 5 years ago for the first time. Just kind of threw it on because I was like, I've heard this is one of the good ones by Robin Williams, and I should probably watch it. And so I put it on, and yeah, I enjoyed myself back then, and we'll see what I think now. Noah, take it away with that story, please.
Picture a man going on a journey beyond sight and sound. He's entered the demilitarized zone. Good morning, Vietnam! Wow! I feel good. Time to rocket from the Delta to the DMZ. It's 0600. What's the O stand for?
Oh my God.
It's Mr. Leo.
You know, this whole camouflage thing for me doesn't work very well. Why is that? Well, because you go in the jungle, I can't see you. If you're going to fight, clash.
That is not what we program here.
Surprise! Surprise! Surprise!
You are not funny.
You're not gonna last long here.
Boy, do I have a surprise for you.
Good morning, Vietnam!
In 1965, Adrian Cronauer was sent to do the impossible.
I was sent here on very strict orders from a colonel.
What the hell's going on here?
His mission? To build morale.
Where are you from?
I'm from Cleveland, man.
Obviously, Vietnam's not that much of a change for you.
His strategy? Keep 'em laughing.
If someone is not telling the truth, you say that they are full of...
His problem? Staying out of trouble.
You want to stick to playing normal modes of music. Jim Neighbors, Mantovani,
Percy Faith.
Percy Faith. Good. Yeah. He did a very off-color parody of former VP Nixon.
Seeing as how the VP is such a VIP, shouldn't we keep the PC on the QT? Because if it leaks to the VC, you can end up in MIA, and then we'd all be put on KP.
Adrian Cronauer arrives at a military base in Vietnam to work on the armed forces radio service. Ruffling the feathers of his superiors with his irreverent comedy and rock music, the second lieutenant Stephen Hawke and Sergeant Chad Dickerson try to get rid of him. However, he is too well liked to do anything about it. Cronauer sees Trin, a Vietnamese girl hurrying to English class. He follows her and takes over the class in order to score a date. Instead, he meets Tuan, her brother, and they go for a beer. In defense of Tuan, Adrian starts a brawl with some racist soldiers. Now on thin ice, Cronauer must tread carefully. He revisits the bar and is met by Tuan, who tells him Trin likes him, and they must leave now. Immediately after leaving the bar, it explodes.
Yeah, so I think the most surprising thing about this movie for me is that this Cronauer guy is apparently based off of a real person.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Like,
never realized that.
I know that it's like the actual guy was like, yeah, this guy only portrayed me maybe, like I would say this is 45% accurate is what he said.
So yeah, I don't know how much is actually true. I don't even think 40% is necessarily true. I guess it depends on how much you weigh certain things, but we watched an interview with the actual Adrian Cronauer, and he was saying that, well, let me try to think of the things that were correct. First off, I was a DJ in Vietnam for a year, so that is a thing. That's about it. Oh, he did teach an English class.
Were you able ever to, are there any like audio files of what his show was like?
Maybe.
Or anything like that?
So I didn't find any, but I did hear that after he left after that 1 year, they liked his intro so much that they kept using it with their new DJs moving forward. So they would always continue it, and he would have people come up to him on the streets and stuff, or at conferences, and be like, "Oh, yeah, I was in Vietnam whenever you were on the radio." He goes, "Oh, really? When were you there?" He's like, "Oh, I was there in 1969 to 1970." It's like, "Oh, I was there from 1965 to 1966. Yeah. So, but that just means that they always heard the "Good morning, Vietnam." So
Here's a question. Was that true?
Yes. Well, sort of. Because the actual way he said it was apparently different. He was saying that Robin Williams emphasized the good part, like that good, like ramping up. It's just all energy. Whereas he described doing it. The reason he even came up with it is because as a radio host, you're kind of like an early morning radio host. You're going to be late to a show. Like, that's just a thing he says. It's going to happen. It's 5 a.m. You got to get there on time. You're not going to make it on time. So you're like running in there. You haven't gotten your contacts in. You don't have anything put together. You don't have your records ready to go. And so they're like getting ready to announce you. And so you get there and you're like, "Good morning, Vietnam." As I guess you can't see him doing it, but he's he's setting up while he's saying it just to give himself more time.
So the length of it is stalling.
Yes, just 100%. And so that's where it came from, not just because he was like, "That'll be fun."
Yeah. Yeah, so Robin Williams is playing Cronauer, and he's heading over to Vietnam from Crete, correct?
Crete.
And he's former Air Force. That's like all you know about him?
Yeah.
And I think that's like really an interesting choice, because you really don't know anything about this guy's backstory throughout the whole thing. Like, think about it.
I think we know he's a comedian. That was the only thing that they
mentioned
gave us.
that he was loved by the army or whoever.
The guy who's the commanding officer in this movie, the higher command
Taylor.
one.
Yeah.
What's his
Taylor.
role? General?
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, he's the one who found him. He was in Greece, in Crete, and saw one of his shows, I believe was the exact words he said. He saw his show, which leads me to believe that he was doing stand-up.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing we know about him.
I just still think it's interesting because they just kind of throw you right into the story here. Like, he gets there, like, I want to say he's on the radio not like 5 minutes into the movie, pretty much. Like, I don't know exactly.
It's giving
how
us
much.
what we want, man, which is Robin Williams on the airwaves.
It's like watching a second movie of a series. Like, the first movie sets up the character and the whole thing, but then, like, this is from the beginning of this story, but it's acting as if you already know who he is.
That, man, can you imagine if there was like a prequel they made called like Good Morning Crete when they're in Greece?
Good Morning Crete.
Well, there's a potential sequel called something Good Morning ... So, yeah, but it's just crazy how quick this movie gets into it. Like, he is sitting at in the booth, and you get the iconic Good Morning Vietnam. It's almost one of those moments in this movie where they knew it would be iconic. Like, it's like, it's leading up to this moment, and he delivers the line, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's instantly iconic. But this was... How was the movie to know that? It's like
I think they intended for it to be iconic because they say it a couple of times, and then with the soldiers, it becomes a thing.
Yeah.
So they're asking them to say the thing.
I know. It's just so few movies like anticipate becoming classics. It's like this one just knew that it would be. Like so when it's leaning into that scene, it's almost like self-aware of how much of a cultural thing this is going to be going forward, or how much people are going to recognize it. You know?
Right.
And then he goes off on this just, I don't know, ad-libbed, crazy, just total stream of consciousness, Robin Williams-y thing that we know him to do. And it's like perfect. Like, I think this movie is the perfect vehicle for Robin Williams. And it is one of the main reasons why he was kind of launched into stardom.
Yeah, it hits the highlights of what he's good at, which is comedy with a little sprinkling of seriousness.
Yeah.
Well, he kind of did the same thing he did with the genie role, except live actionified it.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
A little naughty.
A little naughty, yeah. There's a little bit more R-rated stuff in this versus Aladdin.
But it's kind of just he's got some spiels and he's going to go through it, and they just kind of let him run.
Yep.
I think there are more iconic movies that Robin Williams has been in, but I think this might be the best use of his abilities that I've seen. Yeah, you can say Good Will Hunting is like the best Robin Williams movie. I would say, best dramatic performance maybe. But this is just... It is the perfect distillation of what Robin Williams is good at. Where it's like, just let this guy riff.
Yep.
Like, and this movie really emphasizes those moments where Robin Williams is allowed to just go off. And so many of the other movies that we hear about behind the scenes, like, Robin Williams gets like a million different takes, and they usually pick the safe one, even though it's like the funny one. This one, I feel like they picked or kept the ones where it was just like him really going for it.
Yeah.
You know, like Mrs. Doubtfire, as we've referenced, there's an NC-17 cut of that because of something Robin Williams probably said that was crazy. I feel like this is not cut down, or it's not like I don't know what happened exactly behind the scenes, and maybe it pushes it even further at other times.
Probably towed the line a little bit in some places.
Yeah, but all the other ones seem like Robin Williams probably slightly edited.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? This.
Oh, yeah, 100%, because directors like to have more control, I feel like. Whereas in this one, the director was like, I want Robin to be Robin.
Yeah.
And some people want Robin to be Robin, but they also kind of want him on a leash.
Yeah. This is a movie where Robin Williams is the sun, and every other element is just planets orbiting around it. Like, that's what this movie is. Whereas a lot of the other ones, he might be, what's drawing your eyes like constantly, but not necessarily the focal point. Or like you have Aladdin, he's the genie. He's a flavor to that. Even in Mrs. Doubtfire, even though he's the main character in that, he still seems more like a flavor and less like the I don't know,
fully realized character.
Yeah. But just more muted, I guess. This seems completely, like, as I said, unedited.
Yeah, a lot of his riffing kind of, while we were watching this, did remind me a lot of kind of that locker room talk, kind of what you would expect guys to talk about, especially in this kind of environment where they try to keep things as lighthearted as possible, considering the circumstances. They're far from home. They're not close to anyone except their, brothers in arms, I guess. So it's just kind of, it really does hit that feeling for me while you're watching it, where there are things they do where you're like, that's a little...
It wouldn't slide nowadays, let's put it that way.
Well, yeah, but it makes sense with this kind of environment. And I think even, he didn't say this in so many words, but when David and I were watching that talk by the actual Cronauer...
Yeah.
He was saying how none of these characters are representing actual people he knew, but the characters themselves, everyone knew someone that was like that. you know? So they were all depicting real people that you would encounter in this kind of environment. So and I think it does a very good job of portraying that sort of, it felt real, you know?
Yeah. It really does. It's, this is so much different than his other films, at least that it's almost like it is like a slice of life almost, even though his performance is still over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Like this.
Well, there are people like him in real life, obviously, because he exists.
Yeah, this movie it doesn't rely on a 3-act structure. It's more like he arrives at this place, he does his thing, and you get to, there's the context of the war that's starting to or about to kind of pop off.
Right.
And then it ends. Like, it's like, but it's poignant too. Poignant?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's poignant too.
I think it's poignant.
Yeah, I just like it's so unpretentious in that way too. That like I don't know. I like this movie.
Yeah, I can tell.
I can tell.
Well, this is kind of off topic a little bit. One of my favorite things about this with Robin Williams is the fact that his spiels are actually hilarious.
Yeah.
Most of the time, whenever movies portray, oh, he's the funny guy, all the troops are going to laugh, or all these people are going to laugh because he's funny, it's normally not that funny, but some of the things he says on here are actually hilarious and had me laughing while I was alone in my room.
This seemed like the time when he loved doing impressions and was actually really good at it before he was like expected to do impressions.
I think he just always did impressions. I think that was just his thing he liked to do.
I know, but this just seems like so fresh.
Yeah.
Like it seems so fresh compared to the other one.
It does.
Something I forgot was that he actually did a couple impressions of Howell, Mr. Howell from Gilligan's Island, where he like pushes his jaw forward a little bit. It was really actually very good.
His Elmer Fudd is
That's
really
not
good.
right.
Yeah,
David. His Elmer Fudd was really good too. Yeah.
He's like,
very quiet.
what does he say? Like, Nixon, who, by the way, is Elmer Fudd.
Yeah.
One of my favorite bits
goes on.
I ended up thinking was great was actually not even in the final cut. It was in one of the takes that I don't think it made the final cut, but he was like, oh yeah, and President LBJ, he tagged his children and released them into the woods because that's the way they
It felt like the right thing to do.
I think he does say that.
Oh, he does that one in this one? I couldn't
does.
remember which one was the outtake or not.
I think there were different iterations. Like he went through the same skits over and over, but he had kind of different ways of saying it during that.
He definitely had it felt like the right thing to do.
Felt like the right thing to
and
do.
I feel like I resonate with the line a little bit.
It's just his delivery is just so energetic and fun. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you, Reese. I think this is prime Robin Williams at what he does best.
Yes.
But it's interesting because when I watched this, it felt like, yeah, that is something he does, but watching it in the movie, it felt like it was just routine, you know? And that's kind of the point, is that what he's doing is just routine. And so he just kind of knocks it out and then like, all right, job done, you know, moving on. There's no, like, you don't really see the heart in it. He's just kind of getting the job done, and probably in a weird way, it made me think of what it's like being in the entertainment industry, where you sort of feel like a monkey. It's like, come on, dance monkey, make me laugh, kind of a thing. And then you just get back to reality, and in some ways you're just sort of miserable. Mm-hmm. But there's a scene that comes later though that will tie back into that.
Well,
we'll mention it.
There's also a scene right at the beginning whenever he just gets at the base. He kind of walks in, brushes by everyone, maybe cracks a couple jokes, but not. He's just more serious, and he kind of seems a little bit more pissed off than anything.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And then like the moment he airs, he's good.
It's like he switched on.
The word I would use to describe him is kind of flippant.
Yeah.
Would you say, flippant to the authority here? And it's, I think little things like that are very important to these kind of characters, where like you said, you don't get much of a backstory except, he came from Greece and he's here now.
Yeah.
But little attitudes like that give you the impression of him having to deal with this regularly, and then, but also just his attitude towards the whole system and how he's just over it,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think one of the reasons why this one feels so natural for Robin Williams is because it kind of is the role that he has to take. That came out wrong, but in my head it made sense. What I meant is he's supposed to be a bombastic personality. Robin Williams is a bombastic personality. He's on a radio show. He has to perform and make jokes, and he always has his good radio voice.
Right.
He's very distinguished in that field, so it's kind of just right up his alley to do whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why it feels so natural in this movie. Plus, it being in kind of a war setting, he can be coarse.
Yeah.
I also like the dynamic that is set up in this movie from the start, where you have Forrest Whitaker as Private Edward Garlic. Yeah,
I really like that character.
Who's just immediately
I like
admiring of Cronauer. Gosh.
Yeah, he just
names, like, anytime you ask me to say a name, it just vanishes.
He has the attitude of a little kid that has just come across his idol, or like the superhero he sees in his comics,
Yep. And then you have the lieutenant and sergeant, played by Bruno Kirby and J.T. Walsh, who are immediately opposed to him. You have the lieutenant, who's kind of like, oh, well, I'm a comedian. I submitted a few jokes, and they're going to be published.
I'm funny.
Yeah, I'm funny.
I know in my heart I'm funny.
And someone who says they're funny they're always
really
definitely
not
funny. No, I'm just kidding.
I think this is where it feels the most like MASH to me, kind of like that dynamic, where it's like the authority figures are kind of comically evil, and then this main character is very kind of flippant and boyish and just he has kind of like that twinkle in his eye a little bit, you know. So it's I do really enjoy that dynamic though.
Yeah. And I like that the general guy likes him. The guy above all of them likes him, but then the sergeant and lieutenant are just staunchly against him. So it's just this really interesting dynamic in this area
where it's all
like,
balanced. But
and then it also opens up an interesting conversation about like censorship at the time.
Yeah.
Where it's like there's atrocities happening and he's trying to thread that needle to where like, or not even thread a needle, he's pretty blunt about everything on the radio station, but it's like, how much can I say and what can I get away with is constantly what is happening here. It's like a tug of war almost that keeps the movie like, I don't know, really percolating.
Well, I like how in the beginning he gets there and they kind of give him the quick spiel about like, you take these notes of what you want to talk about, give them to these twin redheads and have them cross-check and
what
edit.
I love it is it's all this news, these news articles, and they're like, okay, can't talk about that. You can talk about this one. Can't talk about that one.
Yep.
You can talk about this one. Blah, 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 blah.
You can only play certain music, and you can only talk in a certain way. And so I think it's funny how right off the bat, he just goes well and beyond what he's supposed to be doing and pisses everybody off.
He knows that, like, it's one of those things where he has to be the funniest, best personality for that to fly. Like, he knows that you have to garner some sort of support on the outside to make that acceptable. You know, like if he sucked at comedy or was not good at his job, it'd be instant chop. But he's charismatic and he's able to like, you know, sell it to his audience so in such a funny, like crass way that I don't know.
Look, he knows his audience.
Honestly, it's just life. Like if you want to get away with something, you got to be charismatic. Like, you have to have the personality that can back it up.
Yeah.
And the fact that he got so many fan mail, I mean, that so much fan mail, I think that dictated how his success in this was going to go.
Yeah.
And it really comes to a head on what the reason is for him being there. Why you need somebody, a comedian, coming out there. It drives the troops way more than you would have expected. And I don't know, it becomes more
morale is
emotional.
really important.
Well, you get the sense all they had before was some, you know, boring guy giving them polka music. That's not the same guy, but still,
right?
Like, not the best entertainment.
one of his jokes was posted in a newspaper.
I wonder if he had Frenchie.
Okay, that made me cringe so hard.
I figured it would.
Yeah,
That was painful.
I had to look
they
away.
were wanting you to cringe.
I know they did, but normally when the movie wants me to do a thing, I can see that they're doing the thing, and it's like, nah,
Oh, man.
not gonna get me.
Wait, no, afterward, though, when he finishes his bit and he looks at him, I think I deserve an apology, and everyone's like,
It's painful.
nope.
No, it was just him honking the stupid horn.
Ugh.
That was so painful.
Slapstick
Well,
comedy.
And that's in the second half of this movie, I
Yeah, it
think.
is.
But still, just seeing him, because you could tell that Robin Williams impressed on him a little bit, and he was
Yeah.
trying to conjure up some of that same manic
Yep,
energy, and was just failing at it completely.
So to get back on track to like sort of the storyline, he finishes his first time on the radio, and he immediately leaves and goes into town, right?
Yeah.
And he's just like fawning after every girl he passes by.
Well, that was in the beginning. We got that before.
he does
that.
it. He does it twice.
No, he's a bit of a horn dog.
He is.
Just a little bit.
And well, he goes out and then he ends up just literally trailing a girl and then follows her to a school where she's learning English.
Yeah.
And then somehow he bribes the teacher to let him teach there,
Yeah.
I guess.
Now this
Yep, that is what happened.
it plays with that stuff pretty fast and loose, but it also, even though this girl is probably like 20 years younger than him at this point, maybe even more.
I wouldn't say that.
No, you see how old her brother is?
Well, I know, but he's
That's her. I think that's her young.
well,
Yeah, I think
he's
he's
in his
younger
30s
brother.
here.
Is he only in his 30s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, he's a good, probably a good deal older than her.
My bet would be that she was somewhere around 23 to 25.
She looks younger than that.
Well,
I don't think so.
I guess we
Anyway.
could easily figure that out, couldn't we?
Regardless,
but I don't think it's
regardless of age, the lengths he goes to court her are. I'm pretty sure when we were watching it, I was kind of like sinking back in my chair and going, "Stop! Stop! Stop! Stop!"
She was 22.
20. Hey, I was pretty
You
close.
were pretty close. But I think though it's cringy at first, but the way he handles things later kind of evens it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not as demanding as I was expecting him to be. And I think it was kind of funny how like, oh, he has to make her laugh and then that makes it okay, you know, kind of a thing. But he's I was like, anticipating him to kind of give that sort of creepy, kind of abusing his authority kind of vibe, but he didn't.
Yeah.
Like, fortunately, he's in this role. He's actually more of a gentleman later on than
Like,
you
yeah,
would
he really goes out
anticipate.
of his way to try and court her.
Right.
But he's not, he doesn't.
He never
overstep
like
his
demands
boundaries. Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
He kind of just is like, okay, I'm gonna get my foot in the door, and now I'm gonna be normal.
Right.
Turn on the
now I'm gonna
personality.
chill out.
Yeah.
I almost thought it was creepy when he was asking for like names and addresses.
I
Yeah.
know. I was
it was
like,
weird.
don't do
Yeah,
that.
like where's this going?
I like how it originally was supposed to just be about him getting the girl, and then he just keeps going back. I was like, wait, you're doing this more times? You're going
Yeah.
back to consistently teach this class, and then teaches them swear words.
Well,
I
I
was
like.
gonna-
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that right there is kind of my one nitpick with this movie is the there's a lot of stuff going on,
Right.
and not all of it is very important.
But that's actually what I think is an asset of this movie. It is so confident in just being this a slice of life type of movie where it's not. It's like what's another good example? There's movies that I've seen that are similar
Good Will
to
Hunting.
this.
Well, the problem though with doing the like slice of lifestyle of film in this case is just that it's a movie and you only have a certain amount of time.
I know, but have you seen the before, any of the Before movies? That trilogy, Before
I
Sunset,
haven't.
Before.
No.
Okay, they're linear stories that don't actually have much of an arc to any of the characters or
Right.
a 3-act structured plot. It's just like you're getting a glimpse at a life, people's lives,
Right.
and then it's over. Like this is one of those
Yeah.
types of movies where you're getting a glimpse at this guy's life,
Right.
and it's a a big part of his life, but it's not necessarily like an arc.
Right.
It's just like you get a sense of who this guy is and
Well, yeah, but that would be okay, except then they decided also to have a serious story and then have a lot of stuff happening too.
I think it's just it's an accent. It's
Yeah.
like it's adding, background to this.
Yeah.
Like it is giving it more weight, but I don't think that detracts anything from it at all.
Okay. So what I'm getting at is not just it's not the level of importance necessarily. It's more the fact that you have a lot of different things kind of happening, and realistically, all of this is, I don't know, you don't really have a time frame for it, and in the time you're given, it's like, oh, this all could have happened in a week, but instead it's months, and I don't know, it's just kind of a little jumbled.
I guess that's kind of where we differ, though. It's just kind of, because for me that kind of works for me, because it's like almost like life in a way, where it's just things just happening,
Yeah.
I think this is the only negative I have so far is that pursuit of the woman bothered me a little bit, just because it felt a little outrageous. And then just suddenly starting to teach in English class when they could have easily just had his situation be that, oh yeah, he needs to radio DJ, and then he also is signed up to teach this English class where he could meet her just from that. I think they were trying to add this sort of kind of whimsical, sort of romantic nature to his character in this scenario.
Forced encounter.
And it's like it really doesn't bother me that much. It's just I think there could have been a better way to do it.
Yeah. Well,
that being said, I do enjoy this English class interaction where you actually get some of the Vietnamese people to talk, and I find that actually important because you want to see some personality from the people of this country, because this location is very important to the story. So I think having that grounding moment where he's actually interacting with the Vietnamese people is really important to the story.
I'm also impressed that so shortly after the actual Vietnam War, when this movie was made, which I think it wrapped up in like 79, that this movie is, I don't know, for the most part portraying Vietnamese people in a respectful way.
Yeah. Right.
At least from what I can tell. I'm not Vietnamese. But
right.
It doesn't seem, it's not punching down.
Yeah.
It's more like, I don't know.
In
because
fact,
I feel like
anytime anything derogatory happens, it's portrayed in a negative light.
Yeah. Like I do feel like Robin Williams is kind of idolized maybe by them a little too much. Or he's portrayed too much as like this savior.
Right.
But it's still nice to just...
I would argue that they make the American military seem worse. They shed light on, the type of MPs or whatever they're called out there in the bars being womanizers and doing things they probably shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And the military command just, it's like this process of trying to hide information from your troops.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make us look great.
I think it makes this commentary where it's trying to be fair on both sides, where it's like it's not that all of the soldiers are evil, there are some that are definitely bad eggs and take advantage of their role there. But then there are others that, quite honestly, they don't even want to be there. They're just kind of having to, and so kind of making the most of the situation. But I think this movie does a very good job of trying to reflect on both of those sides, where it's not necessarily an enviable situation, and they're not like the Americans aren't here to just like throw their weight around, but there are some that do.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I think it's being fair in that regard.
And as I said, that's another kind of beautiful thing about this movie, though, is I feel like it's realistic in that way, because every person that you run into this movie there's good eggs and bad eggs on both sides, and it's just a smattering of different personalities on each side. Like it's like
right,
and that's more realistic to me and more relatable.
The thing I like about the whole conflict there is it shows that they had a real insight when making this movie, because they have that point where Cronauer says we're here for you guys, but also on the other side they're like, well, you're also the reason this sucks right now.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it kind of gives both perspectives rather than going from the U.S. side and saying like, oh yeah, we're here to help you guys, and them just being supposedly ungrateful for our help.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot about this, because the easy thing to do at the time would be to just say like, yeah, U.S. is good.
Right,
Americans,
exactly.
rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite interactions, and I didn't see if this was ad-libbed or not, but back to the classroom scene when he's teaching them curse words, basically, or American slang. There's that one guy in his class that he was going back and forth with, where he's all like, what would you do if this happened? And the guy was consistently not
Nothing.
like... You're like, nothing. And then the final thing was like, someone's stabbing you, repeatedly stabbing you, and something like that. And he says, what do you do? What do you say? And he said, like, I wait for death. It was so funny because I, like, watching Robin Williams, it actually looked like a genuine reaction from him that he was amused by this guy.
I think it was.
I want to say it was.
I could believe that.
So I was looking into sort of the people and the location that they were going off of here. So they filmed in Bangkok, but they recreated a Vietnamese city. And a lot of the people they used in these were actually students of Vietnamese schools. So a lot of them didn't know that much English. A lot of them, were they'd never been in a movie or anything. So a lot of this was all just very off the cuff, trying to learn for the first time. And I bet you a lot of those students in that class were in that kind of predicament where they kind of had to just be themselves in the movie.
That makes sense, because a lot of their reactions felt very natural to basically Robin Williams standing up there just trying to make them laugh.
Flip them the bird.
I guess the litmus test for this movie is how much did they pay them?
I actually saw a quote from an extra who was there at the time. They paid them 1,000 of what the currency is there, and who knows? So
like 10 cents.
Who knows? But they also paid them in rice in like a bowl of something else. But supposedly it was good pay, from what I could tell. The guy said it was good times. So I was like, all right.
Oh no, I'm sure it was. I was just making a bad joke.
It was okay.
But yeah, at this point, the brother tells Cronauer to stay away from his sister. And he offers to buy the brother a drink, lunch, or something like that.
I think it's a beer. They go to the bar.
Yes, they have a nice little bonding moment. We get more samplings of Cronauer doing his radio DJing thing, and the sergeant and lieutenant being extra upset about that, and the general shutting them down again. But yeah, I kind of like these montages of him DJing, and then you see all the soldiers reacting across the land. Just it kind of builds that.
It's like a montage.
Well, like he said montage.
It's like a montage.
I would actually more compare it to a montage. Yeah. I don't know what y'all think about that, but
no, I think it's more of a montage.
Oh. Well, agree to disagree.
What do you think, Ariana?
Well, actually, I see what you're saying, Noah, and I see what you're saying, Reese, but I think actually the most appropriate way to describe this sequence would probably be a montage.
She might be right. She might be right.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Sure it's not more of a montage?
I think we need to... No, she's right. It's a montage.
We should probably go to the next bit. Anyways.
We're not funny.
All right, well, this series of sequences that is like a collage... Almost
a montage of a collage.
I think it does a good job of setting up like how he's starting to gain favor across this region, and how he's kind of building up his fan base. And I think there's this mutual like, oh, we recognize that, that's what he does in these sequences is what this movie does as a whole, where it is straddling this line of like you have this serious topic. And they're adding levity to it, but they're also not diminishing how serious things are.
Yeah.
You know? Like
Yeah.
it's and that's a tough needle to thread.
Yeah.
Like but this movie does it. I feel like in any lesser hands this could be offensive in one way or just unsuccessful in another.
Who's the director again?
Barry Levinson.
He must be a pretty good seamstress.
Yeah. Good one.
Thread that needle.
I think that was pretty good. Come on.
I liked it.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's a I don't know. He has a deft touch when it comes to this. And it's just like so many elements of this movie shouldn't work.
Yeah.
Cuz for one, Robin Williams is he's a upcoming star, but he hasn't had huge success or anything at this point. Like I feel like it's risky to, I don't know, build your movie around him and have it be this like there's a heavy social commentary here.
Right.
And also just heavier themes, but hey guys, it's a comedy. Like I don't know,
It's weird to think that the Vietnam War had just ended around 8 years before this, maybe even less than that when you think about like
that's so
prepping
weird.
for this.
Yeah.
To me it feels like 20 years ahead or something like that.
Yeah.
No, it was less than 10 years.
Yeah, this would be like if someone made a comedy about 9/11 like 7 years afterwards. You did would that be possible? Could you?
No, it wouldn't. No, it could be possible.
Well, there was a what's
I'd
that
say
movie? What's that movie
Postal?
by Uwe Boll? Postal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just said it.
There was
that was unsuccessful though.
no. There's another one. I think it's called Save Me. It's the one.
That's a dramedy and it's terrible with Robert
What?
Pattinson.
I enjoyed that movie.
Leave him in silence, please, as we normally
I
do.
haven't
You can't
seen
leave me
it,
in
so
silence
I
when
can't
nobody
make
else
a
knows the
comment.
movie.
I know. I just told you the movie.
Well,
So the Robert
I said
Pattinson-
the movie.
Robert Pattinson and that girl from Lost.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good telling of a dramatic, sad movie. It's also like
Irina,
ultra loud and extremely quiet or whatever that was.
Now, tell me if this sounds good, Irina.
Okay.
Or know it, both of y'all. It's a drama or a romance story.
A dromance.
Yeah, a dromance. Yes, you can coin that, or you can keep that.
I'll work on it.
Where it's the usual ups and downs of this romance between these two people, and then at the end, you realize that the son or the male love interest is in one of the towers of 9/11, and it's like during this climactic call when she's like calling him to, I don't know, whatever, kiss and make up or whatever.
And he was finally reaching his character turning point where he had his own issues that he was finally facing. I believe he was there to meet his dad, which he had issues with the whole movie. So, and his dad wasn't there at the time because he left to go do something else, and he ends up dying and the towers crashing.
Yep.
Yes, it was very depressing. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it was a good movie with a depressing ending.
Weird move to have that be like.
Yeah.
It just seems.
Do you remember? Was it extremely loud and incredibly close?
I didn't watch that movie. It looked
What? You didn't?
It looked boring.
It was boring. It was interesting though.
What? You didn't? It was
boring. It was interesting.
I think that was a book first, though. Like, so maybe the book is more engaging.
It's sad. It's another 9/11. Anything with 9/11 is sad.
Anyway, brother of girl. What's her name? You can tell I really know the names of the characters in this.
Doesn't matter. Just go. I get you. Brother of girl.
Brother of Trin says, hey, she really wants to. Hey, she likes you or whatever.
Yeah, she likes you or whatever.
He's at the bar.
Yeah,
he's like, she doesn't like me.
And he's like, no, I gotta do the thing at 4. But he's like, no, you really gotta do it. Blah 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 blah. I thought this sequence was weirdly edited, where
really
he arrived. Yeah, he gets there, and then there's the bombing or the explosives went off and people die. I just thought like it was almost a little too abrupt, but
oh yeah, no, that's what I've been talking about. Like the way that things happen are just like crammed in, and it goes from like a new thing to a new thing.
Yeah. Well, this was the only instance where I felt that way. I didn't think.
There's another point later on in the second half. We'll talk about it later, but
I think it is abrupt, but it kind of does showcase the situation pretty well, where, you know, everything's kind of going along as normal. There's still kind of this lighthearted atmosphere, but then there's just a sudden explosion, and it's almost like the tone of the movie shifts,
Yeah.
where you realize, oh, this is going to be a little more serious than I thought. And that's sort of the shift his character has.
Yeah, and that's what I liked
Yeah.
about it. Like, yes, it is abrupt, but it's also like you're living in the mind of Robin Williams' character at this point, where it's like
Cronauer.
Yeah, hey, it is also Robin Williams. But yeah, you're kind of living in his,
Yeah.
I don't know, the happier, like, let's put a light spin on things, but also
Vietnam, but happy.
He's emotionally detached from the situation until it directly affects him.
yes, and this finally, like, it's like a jolt, and then the movie does take a bit of a turn at this point.
Yeah.
It's like, oh wait, we're in Vietnam in the middle of a war.
Yeah, after the bomb goes off, I do think it's really cool to see his character take things seriously and decide, okay, I am going to just announce this.
Yeah, he's
I need
straight
the
up.
truth.
He goes straight to the office,
bloody
like, after,
shirt and all after helping right on the scene.
I think the reason that I also really like that bombing scene is I could tell, even just watching it again, that Tren's brother was... You could tell he didn't... Whatever he was saying, it was less about being truthful and more about just getting him out.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it kind of built his character in a better way for me, where it's like, oh, he started caring. He believed in Cronauer, and I don't know, bridged the gap where other people didn't. So it made it more impactful for me.
I didn't think about it at the time, but that is one of those... It's kind of like an underlying message where war gets complicated when you build relationships with people, you know, because there were a lot of people in that restaurant that, all had lives and they all had personalities and could have been just as good as Cronauer, but the fact that he didn't know them made it easier to just let it happen.
Yeah.
But that connection he's built with this guy, like, he can't let it happen to him, at least. So it's just that's just one of those interesting perspectives that this movie has kind of in the background.
Indeed.
Do you want to continue that story, Noah?
With multiple dead and many injured, Cronauer decides to tell the truth on air, with Dickerson demanding he not broadcast it. He announces what happened anyway, leading to his suspension, with Hawk taking his place. This doesn't work well, and Cronauer gets reinstated immediately, much to Dickerson and Hawk's chagrin. But Dickerson decides to send him to Anlok to get rid of him. On their way, they hit a mine. Tuan, learning of this, goes to save him, and they are flown back by Marines. Back at the base, Dickerson tells Adrian he is done for good, revealing Tuan to be a VC operative responsible for the bombings. After confronting Tuan, Cronauer learns that the U.S. killed his family. Adrian, now leaving, plays a game of softball with his English class and bids farewell to everyone with a "Goodbye, Vietnam."
Aww.
Thus ends Good Morning, Vietnam.
It's a nice little tie at the end there.
Yeah. So, Tuan was responsible in some capacity for that.
In
that
full
bombing.
capacity.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part... It wasn't just him. I think he was a part of a larger Viet Cong operative.
But still.
Well,
but,
okay,
he was definitely there.
He specifically is the one that set up the bombs.
Oh, you're right. I forgot.
Yeah.
They definitely talked about that later.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because and it was because Cronauer got him into the bar.
And that's another crazy thing about this movie that it does at this time. So fresh off of the Vietnam War, where even Tuan, who set up these bombs, after all that, they still don't really villainize him.
They don't.
They acknowledge it's an atrocity.
No, they humanize him.
Yeah, but it's like, it's so... In any lesser hands, this would be like your mustache twirly, like...
That was my plan all along.
Yeah. And yes, he committed atrocities, and he's absolutely did a terrible thing. But the fact that they they kind of add depth to that character and say, like, hey, my family was killed by, Americans or something like that. Like, it's like they're still giving a voice to the other side, which I think is, I don't know.
I think one of my favorite scenes is in this half where it's when Cronauer is kind of, he's dejected and despondent, basically, and kind of saying, like, sort of basically a what's the point attitude.
Yep.
And Garlic is trying to like really emphasize how important he is to that community there. And they come across these troops, you know, as they're about to be shipped out. And they said, hey, look who we have here. It's Cronauer.
so good.
And they're like, hey, how do we know it's you? And, you know, he finally kind of like begrudgingly gives a good morning, Vietnam. And they all
so
start
touching in
cheering.
a weird way. Like,
And then he does this kind of ad-libbed performance, which felt like the most real one
Yeah.
of all of them that he had. And kind of the importance of him, like, asking their names and knowing that like it's important to a soldier to be recognized as an individual, not just part of the mass, you know? And so like humanizing them and saying like, what's your name? Where are you from? And then, you know, just kind of making a little joke, a little riff off of where they came from, you know? So that scene touched me a lot.
yeah.
I think that was my favorite part.
was
And
really
the one
good.
I always remember from this movie.
I can't remember what we were watching that was going over sort of like the behind the scenes, or not the behind the scenes, but sort of like the thought process behind the character and how he is more of an introverted guy than he lets on.
Yeah.
And that a lot of what he does is a show. It's an act.
Yeah.
And whenever he's on air, he turns on his personality. It's like a secondary personality for him. So when he's out and about and not on the radio, it's not really easy, actually, it seems like, for him to be able to turn it on unless he's, like, prepped to do it.
Yeah.
And so he had to actually sort of, like, let go of his, you know, his restrictions, his sort of wall that he put up so he could talk directly to these people in a way that he knew would help them. And internally, I guess, help himself.
Yeah. This is after that, all that happens, and Tuon goes to the rescue and tries to kind of help them out of that bind.
Which, by the way, the sergeant that sent them out there purposefully into a zone that could have killed them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. That's
why
actually
he's-
really messed up.
He's the Chad right now.
Yeah, he is
why
the
he's
Chad.
our
That's
Chad.
why
Chad.
he's the Chad.
Yep.
Chad Dickerson, I think his
Chad
name is.
Dickerson.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Chad Dick.
Yep.
I'll edit that out. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe I'll keep it. Who knows?
You could keep it.
And I don't think we talk enough about Forrest Whitaker in this role as Garlic. Like, his kind of right-hand man throughout all of this. Like, the ultimate supporting player in this story, I feel like. I love this guy. Like,
Yeah,
he's
I do too.
He's so endearing, and I as you referenced, Arena, the moment where he kind of like is like really talks to Cronauer. Sorry, dude. It's just my brain.
Yeah.
It's just my brain. I can't help it. But where he really like almost shouts at Cronauer, like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we need you. This is your responsibility. Like,
Right.
you got to do this." Like, I loved that so much.
He's very important because like there are so many people that reprimand Cronauer in this movie, but he doesn't listen to any of them. Their perspective doesn't matter to him, but Garlic is representative of, or Forrest Whitaker's character, Garlic, is representative of the grouping of troops, the people that need him,
Yeah.
you know? So I think I love this transition of kind of fawning over Cronauer, but then getting to a point where he notices like Cronauer has some personality flaws that he needs to work on, and then being that voice of reason, like, you know, snap out of it. This is what you need to do, you know, kind of like get back on track. So his character is very important, even though you wouldn't think that because he's sort of a side role, but very effective.
Forrest Whitaker is also one of those actors I've never thought about what they would look like young.
Yeah.
And when I saw him, I was like, "Oh, it's little boy Forrest Whitaker."
I
And I
know.
was like,
Well, he does act like a little boy in this. Yeah.
But I always associate that guy with like very wise, stoic,
Yeah.
like, you know.
I always
Intense
think
almost.
think of Black Panther now. Just
I think of that, and I think of oh my gosh, what is the
think of-
movie? He won an Oscar for it, and great. He's like a king or something in it. I'm trying.
Isn't he in Rogue One?
Yeah, he's in Rogue One as well.
Oh,
for
that's
some reason
right.
I think
Yep.
of him in
breathing
that one.
apparatus.
yep.
It's a movie called The Great Debate, I believe he was in.
The Great Debaters?
Yeah, Great Debaters. And I thought he did really well in that one, too.
That's not the one I'm thinking of, though. Like, he won the Oscar for it. Like, oh, yeah, The Last King of Scotland.
Oh.
Yeah. Have y'all heard of that?
I haven't seen it.
Well, there you go.
Good to know.
Okay, where are we at here? Someone help me out.
The Hawk just took Cronauer's place on the show, which didn't
played
turn
a bunch
out.
of polka music.
So we get Hawk taking over the mantle of Cronauer after he's been let go. And it doesn't go very well for him.
Any decent man respects a good polka or something like that. I don't know. It's like,
I love how he's like, there's so many.
Listens to polka music.
He's like, and his defense is like, what about the silent masses who have been wanting this for so long?
I
And
know.
he's like,
too bad they're silent.
So unaware.
I like that moment when he first takes off the headphones and he's like, I think y'all owe me an apology.
Yep,
He says something like that.
It just made it so much worse.
The thing is, his character is frustrating, but in the fact that he's so unaware of himself that it just makes it funny. So I really, really like this actor for the way he portrays this character.
Bruno Kirby.
Honestly, he was weirdly giving me some Edward Norton vibes.
I could kind of
like
see
there's
that.
something about his face that's very similar.
No, I could definitely see that. And even his personality too, where it's just like this I don't know, by the books kind of.
Yeah.
He has a sense of authority, but also thinks he's a.
I guess it was kind of bringing me back to his role
that
in
Wes Anderson movie?
Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, I was thinking
Moonrise
Kingdom.
Yeah. It's kind of similar in both, I guess.
But yeah, I love how the general in that scene just realizes how inept he is, so he just gives up and excuses him.
Yep.
He's like, whatever, I'm not even gonna.
I'm
not even gonna begin to unpack how
bad that was.
How bad that was. So you just go on.
And we get the another very pivotal moment in the movie where Cronauer is getting into the recording booth and he locks the door behind him. He's been giving like strict orders to like, hey, don't say these certain things again, and he just kind of goes right into it. And it's such a perfect balance too, where yes, he still keeps that like comedic, kind of tinge to it,
right?
But it's much more like, I don't know, cut to the heart, kind of, or cut to like what's important. Like, here's what you need to know. I'm going to get all this information out as quick as I can before I'm shut down. So I liked that a lot as well.
Right. I think it's definitely representative of kind of the role that I feel like celebrities need to play, where they sort of, because of their notoriety, because of their status and how much people love them, they kind of need to combat authority and that censorship in a way. It's almost like this weird sort of genre of vigilantism in some way, where they're kind of protected by their popularity, in order to just kind of talk straight, So I kind of like that aspect here, where they kind of built this story appropriately, where he's in a position where there is that threat of people trying to tie him down, but at the same time he has this freedom because everyone knows and loves him that he can just kind of speak his mind.
And Noah, in a reference to how you were saying how all these things just kind of happen and seem like just at times maybe like a hodgepodge of just things happening randomly.
Right.
I think this movie stealthily really comes together by the end, though. Where, like, when you look back on the journey, it pulls all these pieces together. Like, all these disparate parts, and you understand why every facet of this movie had to happen the way it did.
Right.
Because it sends home this very clear message in the end that I do find effective, and you think about every one element of this movie, and it's like, oh, all of these elements really do add to this, like, it's not quite a gut punch, but it's like,
Right.
it's like, here's the movie's statement. And you understand that every part of this movie is reinforcing that statement.
Yeah.
I feel like, and it's in this moment. I do think it's a lot about the statement it's making is a lot about censorship. How there's a lot of like things that they don't want you to know, and how there's no one side is ever perfectly good.
Right.
It's always like, I don't know, every action has a reaction, and there's
Right.
good and bad on both sides.
Well,
And
more what I'm getting at is not necessarily that it's a hodgepodge, just that there's kind of too many subplots.
yeah, but the thing is, I think each of those subplots, none of them are like unnecessary. Like, I think they all like have a purpose. Like, it's
Okay, but I don't think all of the purposes necessarily meet up.
I
is
think
what
they
I'm
do.
getting at.
I
Like
think they do.
Like I don't know. There was another movie recently that was very similar. That's still an amazing movie, and yet I still said that like okay, it felt like they're literally
Dune.
Fisher King. Fisher King was this way. Great movie, but it was they were like, okay, we're gonna tackle this issue and this issue and this issue, and I got a similar situation going on with
This one seemed a little simplified compared to the Fisher
Yeah,
King,
this
in my
one
opinion.
this one didn't have as many of those, but
Yeah.
it was that similar kind of
They're
like
spinning a lot of plates.
yeah, exactly, and they all end their own little subplot, but it felt like there was just like, well, that's a subplot that should be in a different movie, you know. That's just kind of
Yeah, I
my
guess-
take on it.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But I think the overall feeling I get from this movie is sort of almost the futility of the situation, where you feel like there's really nothing you can do to help it, but you're just getting kind of a snapshot of what that's like. Because most Americans, I'm gonna venture to say, don't understand what it was like to be there.
Yeah.
And this probably won't encapsulate exactly what they went through, or, you know, the people of Vietnam or the troops themselves. But it's basically taking a snapshot of what that might be like.
Yeah.
And the movie doesn't feel like it's fully resolved that issue either.
Yeah.
It's just kind of showing you what that's like.
Yeah.
There was a filmmaker that I feel like is very adopts this type of style a lot, and that's Richard Linklater. Who,
what did he
the
do?
Before trilogy. He did Boyhood. He did
yeah.
School of Rock, but that's a different. That's
Love
not
School of Rock.
That's more of a, in my opinion, slightly more mainstream and more like conventional. I know I like it. I actually really like
you
it,
do?
but I don't think it's like really indicative of Richard Linklater's
Like style.
Yeah, Everybody Wants Some, Dazed and Confused. He did those movies as well, where they're all like, you watch those movies and it's just capturing a time. Like it's not. It's just like, as you said, a snapshot, where it's just like, here's this this event. This is what happened. Yeah. This is not a movie. This is an event.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, and this one does that, where it's like, I don't know.
It's like we're not trying to show you the beginning and end of this whole issue. We're just giving you like a little glimpse of one person's situation within this larger picture, you know? Even though it is a little bit a little more grand in Hollywood terms than it probably actually was. But,
yeah, oh yeah, no, it's definitely there. Embellishments are made, plenty of changes are made, and I think they're transparent about that. They're not trying to say like, "Hey, this is exactly what happened."
Right.
But I think a lot of the messages are genuine. Where
Trying
it's
to
like,
capture the social issues rather than
exactly. Yeah. So he says goodbye. Well, we kind of, he's transferred. The sergeant also gets transferred to Guam. Cronauer gets one last good jab at him, which the general found hilarious, which I liked that little moment.
I love that.
So he has one final softball game with the class that he was teaching and the people he'd kind of endeared himself to. and says goodbye to what's her name? You know who it is, Trin. Yep. What'd y'all think of the ending of this movie?
It's very bittersweet, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think it has a perfect ending. Bittersweet as it is.
Yeah,
I also like that their romance didn't go anywhere. For an 80s movie, not to actually like ever show them even kiss or do anything that. Like, I thought that was like, okay, thank you for showing some restraint, because I don't think that needed to happen.
The romance was a catalyst in the beginning, but provided almost next to nothing for plot. I liked it.
The thing that frustrates me with a lot of movies that have romance is like, well, even if the relationship doesn't end up anywhere or they break up, we have to have sex. You know, like we have to have that in there somewhere. You know, like the audience demands it.
In the movie Once, they also tackled this, where you think they're going to get together, and they're like, you know what? I think her quote in there was like, we could have sex and it would be great, but that would be it, and I don't think we should ruin this. And he's like,
I don't think she said that, though.
No, she said something very similar, I promise.
Yeah.
I think there was also the kind of traditional aspect of it where her culture is vastly different from his culture, and sort of just recognizing that fact. And it's like, it's not going to work realistically. And her perspective is, I'm not interested in flings, basically. Yeah. Like, this is, I just can see the future, and I'm not like that. That's not something I want to get involved with.
Yeah. And not to mention their kind of opposition already.
Yeah.
It would get very complicated.
Yeah. A lot of people say their relationships are complicated, and that's definitely complicated.
Also, I want to clarify, just to make sure people aren't confused out there. When I was talking about that comment, that was in reference to the movie called Once, not this movie. The girl in this movie did not say that.
I don't think they
when you
said
asked
that.
me that, I was like, did you watch that movie recently? No. Oh, okay. Maybe that didn't come across.
Yeah, there's a movie called Once where it's kind of a similar situation where there's this romance, but it never goes anywhere because both characters realize it can't go anywhere. Yeah.
And then they both end up going back to their respective previous boyfriend-girlfriends. Not to give anything away, sorry. But watch the movie.
All right.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? Or have we missed anything? Is there anything...
We've definitely missed a lot.
What do you mean?
Like, her brother and... that whole
man, maybe one of the biggest sort of like
I think because we kind of mentioned it earlier, we probably thought we already talked about it.
So do you want to talk about how the stuff with the brother was resolved, all that business?
Okay, so I guess I'll kind of go back a little bit on what I said about having too many subplots and more say that it's not that there's too many subplots, it's that the movie's not long enough to fully encapsulate the subplots. So, like, I think each of the little subplots are pertinent, however, they just happen really quickly, and they kind of cut to scene to next scene to next scene really fast. And while they display all the information you need to know, a lot of things could have been left to lie a little longer.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
I'll kind of meet you in the middle and say that the stuff with the brother is kind of inserted in there a little too late, and it does seem like a pretty nice little coincidence that the woman he's attracted to is also related to this guy that causes this bombing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that weird.
But it's just like a slight coincidence that is a little out of the ordinary.
The point is not that it's... it's not weird, but it's just that it happens with not a lot of setup, kind of. And like going through a second viewing, you notice like, oh, he got me out of there real quick, but or he got him out of there real quick for a reason. But they never really hinted at a possibility that, you know, there are secret bad guys here. Until right at the end, where it's like, oh, by the way, he's a terrorist.
Not only am I okay with that, I think they did that so well that I wouldn't have changed it at all. And I only say that because the one hint they do give is the fact that he pulled him out of the bar.
Well,
so quickly, and
also the fact that he came back to rescue them from that road, and nobody attacked him while he was on that road. So I think it was just too easy for him to find.
So when they
them.
explained it, and I think we're kind of almost in the exact same headspace Cronauer is on the first watch, where when he's explained to him that he is a terrorist, it's like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Oh man, you're right. Like that, I didn't even look at the clues, but you're right. And but I think they also don't hint at him being a part of the Viet Congs because they don't want it to villainize him too early. I think the whole point is to not make it seem like he's a villain. And so when it almost gives him that time for whenever Cronauer confronts him to sort of explain himself. And you really realize it's not as simple as just like, I hate Americans, so I bomb them.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, actually, it kind of is.
I mean,
well, they bombed his family, and he harbored resentment.
It's an eye for an eye type of thing, where it's
he's making a statement by doing it. That said, though, it's like throwing in a twist when it's like this isn't the kind of movie that you'd expect a twist from, but also like not necessarily in like the ooh juicy twist. More like, oh, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Although if you rewatch it, I think it takes rewatching to pick up on the clues because there are clues.
I think there's one big clue.
Okay.
There's only one big clue, and that's that he went in to grab him. But
is it a raging clue?
It is a raging clue.
A raging clue is funny that way.
I've got a raging clue, and it's pointing this way. No, it's the only big clue is that he went to grab him out of the bar really quickly.
But there's lots of little subtle clues. Subtle ones.
Well, I don't think there's a lot of subtle ones either.
Well, he kind of hinted at hating Americans off the get-go, and also like he had some sort of anger towards military personnel.
He said he never said anything like I hate them. He said, you're just a typical American guy. You will sleep with our girls and whatever, leave them. And
I'll never say he showed a little resentment towards Americans.
Yeah, but it wasn't like I'm gonna bomb the place resentment.
I know, but why would he say that to him?
He's keeping it low key.
He wouldn't. Okay, he wouldn't say it, but his demeanor would indicate it.
Yeah, no, you're right though. It did not hint at where the first time I watched it, I remember going, I did not see that coming. You're right. I think it takes multiple views to pick up the really subtle cues, and you're right. They could have maybe incorporated something that kind of hinted a little bit more.
How do you think all of this resolves though? Because since we are at the end of the movie,
the resolution
we're going
is
back
good.
to the beginning.
I think the resolution is good based on what they present.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think the movie ends really well. I think it's got a perfect ending.
No, with the brother though.
Oh,
oh man, when he confronts him in the forest and they have their one-on-one.
Yeah, it was a really good moment.
That's one of the most touching parts.
Here's what I'm saying. It's an extremely touching part, and I think it would have been even more touching if if that plot had been given a little more time for you to like, because he says he's his best friend. I didn't feel like I had seen a lot of scenes that would say like, oh, that's his best friend. I just wish you had a little more time with Tuon for you to really like
almost
him, even
as
though
if
you
that
already
should have been the
well,
main plot.
Here's the thing though.
Yeah,
Tuon is a very young kid.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're young, relationships are they are more quickly formed.
No, I'm talking about Cronauer. I'm talking about Cronauer. Cronauer says it like it's been the biggest betrayal of his life. He was his best friend. I can't believe you've done this. I trusted you, etc., etc.
I can't believe you've done this.
And I think that would have been. It would have hit even harder if they had like set up their friendship a lot more. I think
we're definitely diverging too much because I totally agree. Like the more you say it, I'm like, yeah. I think if we could fix one thing, focus more on his relationship with the boy rather than maybe his relationship with the military.
I did appreciate that nice little lunch scene they had though, where
that was great.
Yeah, he gives him the spicy food, and he's
more of that. That would have been good.
I agree.
And then they do set it up with him saving him in the jungle, doing all that, saving him from the restaurant he's gonna bomb. Like it.
Okay, but if you look at the actual screen time of him you get, it's not that large.
I think that's why we're going way too far on a tangent with this, because I think we both still like this movie.
Yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. But it's just like little things.
All right. Well, the end. Does anyone have any final thoughts on the actual end of this movie when he's kind of transferred out? It's a bit kind of melancholy, but you still get your final farewell. His last recorded Good Morning Vietnam. We have Garlic kind of taking over, or at least you get the idea that he'll probably be the host of this radio show going forward for however long. What do y'all think?
Substitute.
Yeah. I wanted to hear him like do more. Like I was like,
me
oh,
too.
let's hear you do it. I want to hear you. I want to see you do this.
I was getting a little bit of Gus vibes from Psych.
Oh,
Just like there's the radio show episode. It just felt kind of like Robin Williams was the Sean and Garlic was going to be the kind of counterpart Gus.
Yeah, the foil to him almost, but also best friends.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. I could have watched this movie for longer than it was. Like,
I agree.
Yeah, I was just really having a good time. All right, we're done with final thoughts.
I think so.
All right. Yep. Let's close out the story. Take a quick break. On the other end, we'll get into our brief reviews with numbered scores. Get into what critics thought. Talk some box office, and then see where this franchise, quote unquote, franchise is at. See you then. Welcome back. David, you want to pull those scores at random and do our quick reviews?
Why, yes, I would, brother.
What was that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
David gets randomly possessed by weird things.
I try to go for things, and I just let the energy take over me, and I don't know what's coming out.
Maybe because you're trying that impulse.
You're trying to go for them, not beaver them.
Look, man, I'm not afraid to be who I am. I'm not going to laugh at that beaver joke. First up, Irina with a 9.
Ooh.
All right. I'll probably give this actually a 9.5 because I had talked myself through it, and I just think it's nearly perfect in what it's trying to do. I will agree with Noah in some ways that some of it feels a little rushed, and maybe some of the emotional points were a little bit glossed over sometimes. It passed a little too quickly. But I think the part that bothered me the most is more like the pursual of the girl.
Yeah.
And how I think there could have been a better way to encounter her rather than just, I saw this woman on the street and I chased her to the English class where I bribed my way into teaching it.
Yeah.
So that felt very odd.
They could have just done instead, like, oh, he saw her on the street. Just missed her.
Yeah.
Then he's teaching the class later, and it's like, oh, there she is.
I mean, if a man wants it, he's going to get it.
Yeah, I
okay?
don't like that.
Let's cut that.
That was obviously a joke.
Yeah, I think
it's
he's okay.
fine.
Yeah, you're good.
But I think that's the only part that really bothered me, and it's not so much that, oh, that's creepy. It's more just in comparison to the rest of the film, that felt more outrageous than everything else I see.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of inconsistent and took me out of the experience to a small degree, obviously, because I still gave this a 9.5. I think everything else is very well done, and I haven't forgotten this movie, even though I've seen it only once. It's a lot of what happens is still very memorable to me, and I'm always engaged. So I think it's actually a pretty well-balanced film as well. And Robin Williams, this is the first time you get to showcase his ability rather than just comedian. Like there's more to him than just comedy.
Yeah.
And I think this was just beginning that part of his career. So it's interesting to see that in this scenario, because I definitely feel like in some cases I could tell he was a bit new to it. Like he was transitioning that comedic aspect into sort of a dramatic role.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think it developed even more as he went on in his career. So I'm going to leave it at a 9.5. So
all right.
Legit.
All right, next up, David with a 7.5.
Really?
So I'm going to bump it up to an
okay.
8. I was between 7.5 and 8. And the weird thing is, this has nothing to do with the technical prowess of the movie. I think that what they did extremely well. There was just something off for me as far as maybe the rewatchability factor. I don't know. It's just, I love watching Robin Williams, and we've been covering a lot of Robin Williams. I've been researching Robin Williams and seeing his stand-up. And it felt like watching a lot of his stand-up when he was doing his radio show. It's very quick, very off the cuff, very kind of avant-garde, kind of put off some people. And I enjoyed the movie. I don't know. There's just something slightly off about it. And I think Noah may have captured a little bit of it with the whole younger brother of Tren, sort of how they're juggling both his career as a radio DJ and sort of the issue with the relationships he built with people who betrayed him in the Viet Cong sort of way. And I don't know, it was very impactful at the end. So I'm bumping it up because it's still so good. It's a good movie, and I can see why people give it a higher score. There's just a missing factor I haven't quite leaned into yet, but I'm gonna stick with an 8 and kind of move on from there.
Fair enough.
Next up,
Fair enough.
I'm gonna guess Noah because there's no name.
There should be a name on. Someone wrote the name.
Oh, I might not have written.
Maybe
my
it
name.
was Reese. Okay,
Yeah.
so Reese with a 9.
Yeah, I think this movie is really, really good. Some of y'all noted a few issues you had with the movie, and I kind of agree. I think this movie, things happen a little abruptly, and I do think some of the stuff with Tran is kind of shoehorned in there a little bit and not developed quite enough to be completely satisfying on an emotional level when it's looking for that payoff at the end. But other than that, I think this movie is exceptional. I think this is one of the best Robin Williams performances of all time. Like, he is completely, like, off the leash. Like, there's nothing restraining him in this role, and the director, Barry Levinson, was smart enough to be like, yeah, Robin Williams, you do your thing. Like, I will keep the camera on you. I'll keep it rolling. As long as you have good stuff to give, I'm going to keep it rolling. Like, you never got the sense that he got cut off short or was edited. Like, it just feels, everything about this movie feels pure. Like, there's nothing about it that seems like commercial, even though it is like a big movie, I guess. It just
Big movie, but low budget, I've heard.
Yeah, and it also is one of the rare movies to thread that needle of having a serious subject matter while also being actually straight up funny and having just a sense of levity throughout the whole experience, even though it's dealing with heavy topics. And it manages to send a poignant and effective message by the end of the movie as well. Like, to do all those things and do them well is quite a feat. And now that Robin Williams has left us, I treasure every one of his performances, and I look at them under almost a different lens, where it's like the more pure Robin Williams performances, the ones that really like cry Robin Williams, I treasure even more. And that's why I think this movie resonates more with me now than it did the first time I watched it. I did like it the first time I watched it, but it didn't hit me on the level that it did this time. So yeah, I really like Good Morning Vietnam. I think it's one of his best works, and I love Barry Levinson as a director, and I'm kind of turned on. I feel like I'm gonna be more into his work going forward. I know you heard that. I knew you'd latch on to that word. Turned on to his work.
There you go.
So yeah, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on his filmography going forward. I've seen a couple of his films, but I'm like, okay, I see you, Barry Levinson. But yeah, really liked this movie. Glad we watched it. So
Next up, Noah with an 8.5.
Hey,
All right.
that's me. I give it an 8.5. I believe I made my qualms with it clear. Other than that, I think it's a great movie. I enjoy every bit of it. There you go.
Oh, come on.
I don't need to say more because I've already said it.
The qualms being
8.5.
being the brother and him and Cronauer.
Yeah, just I guess it all amounts to pacing and the amount of time the brother arc got. Okay. I would have liked to have seen more of that or less of that.
But it wasn't so offensive that you gave it a bad score.
Yes, exactly. Because in the end, it was emotional and it was good. But it would have been better had it been given more time.
So we need a 3-hour movie with a 4-part series.
No, 3.
I was gonna
7 movies.
7 movies,
Yeah, I was
3
gonna
hours
say
each.
at least 3 movies.
Honestly, can you imagine if we had sort of like an actual Vietnam miniseries? If there was something out there that put the time in?
Well, here's the thing. Sorry, this is unrelated, but y'all make fun of me about saying 3 movies. That said, I think 1 movie is almost always too short for how much they try to stuff in there.
I mean, I get it. I definitely get it.
I'm going to say this right now. I will always love the format of movies better than TV shows. Always. There's no scenario where I will be like, yeah, I wish that was a TV show.
What about...
I never...
Hold on.
I will never
Let
say
me
that.
propose something. What about a mini series that is almost the length of a movie? Example, Sherlock. It's an hour and a half long for an episode.
The only thing I will accept are miniseries that have a substantial budget and each episode is used to its utmost. Like, this needs to be like this. Like, the best example is Mike Flanagan, who Haunting of Hill House, Midnight Mass. Each episode has a distinct purpose. There's never any filler. It's like, here's a little story within the grand story. Like, that makes sense. And that's what I like.
Yeah.
But TV...
But like a less than 45-minute show that's like not even a part of like a larger
and
story.
I like TV, but for me, even though TV has like so much more of a like production behind it now, I will never value it the same way. I apologize. Even Game of Thrones, I love the production of it, but I just can never hold it to that same level. I just can't. Sorry, that's just me personally.
Fair. I get it.
Forget calling it TV show. Think more installments.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Like
Sorry.
a complete story over bite-sized amounts.
I think
in each
Reese
part.
is more of like he would prefer a trilogy of movies versus like 5 miniseries or like a whole season.
I agree.
Of a TV
If it's
show.
a trilogy of movies, I agree.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, and
because I think a story
requires time.
Yes, exactly. A good story requires more time than 2 hours.
I just love seeing it's a credit to filmmakers when they can put their complete vision into 2 hours plus. Like, how can you best convey your complete vision in this span of time without just dragging this on longer than it needs to go?
How many how many directors are confined to that and have to cut out some of the best moments that could have made it into a movie?
Yet again,
and decide, crap, I'll cut this out because it's too long.
That said, I've seen so many movies where they're 2 hours long and you go to the deleted scenes and you see the deleted scenes and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm glad they kept that out. That did not need to be in the movie. There's like so many things that end up being fluff.
I can name an immediate 2 movies that have taken out a lot of stuff. And you see later, you're like, oh, man.
Well, this is why I advocate for every director deserves a director's cut. Like, I advocate for that as long as it doesn't cost an exorbitant amount.
So Zack Snyder's Justice League right off the table.
No, that is, he got his director's cut.
I know
he got
he
his
did.
final cut.
I can
Well, the
only
weird
imagine
thing
how much
about
it
that
cost,
is
though.
all of that was already filmed. That was...
Yeah, you're right. They just kind of like stored it somewhere.
They spent more to get Joss Whedon in on that to change it into the abomination
what
that
a
it became.
weird choice for a director
So
swat.
it's just, stupid. Anyway, tangent aside, go ahead.
And last but not least, we have AJ with an 8. And AJ is not here right now. He is somewhere in Cambodia or somewhere in Southeast Asia dealing with students of his class and whatnot. So here I am to provide his final statement for the movie. I imagine it's always tricky to marry comedy and melancholy, especially in the theater of war on foreign fields. Somehow, we get an equal slice of subtle satiric sardonicism and straight sincerity, all smartly served in a slapstick skin, and I'm sold. There's so many S's. I think he did that on purpose to stump me.
No, I don't think he did. I think he's just thinking big words.
Somehow we get an equal slice of subtle satiric sardonicism and straight sincerity, all smartly served in a slapstick skin. That was on purpose. And I'm sold. All right. I guess it makes sense. Is it scathing cynicism that fosters sympathy? Surely not so. It is so successful in sweeping you in the story smoothly while making you smile and then summoning sadness and the scenery. Sorry, I'll stop. Thank you, AJ. Here you have a man so out of place, literally in foreign lands with nothing to speak of in terms of possessions. All he brings with him is heart, and with that he makes a home. Not only for himself, not only for his comrades, but for his would-be enemies. Incorporating the teaching of English as a second language, but with a twist, is kind of the core symbol of the movie below the surface. Sure, you've got loud bravado, but that's all for show. When the con is gone, you have human connection, yet it shows the cost of going too far on false pretense. Extrapolate from individuals to larger society. Dinner and a show, substance and sugar. It's not the most absolutely intelligent, but it doesn't need to be. I guess it's not perfect because there's a little too much caricature in some of the supporting characters, but really that's kind of looking for a negative. I think the biggest thing I wanted more of the biggest thing I wanted more of was more build up to the twist, so it hit me harder. That's very much what
That's
Noah was
exactly
saying, yeah.
what I was saying.
All in all, Stripes. Yeah. I'd say 8 is good. What? Oh yeah, ditto for Good Morning Vietnam. So also for those out there, I can see there's one person who caught on to that Stripes reference. Anyone out here know Stripes?
I know it's a Bill Murray movie. I just haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh man, you'd love that movie. Yeah, Stripes, great movie.
No, actually, when you asked that I hadn't seen it, I realized, yeah, I've seen it.
Shut up.
Yeah.
So that's what AJ watched this time.
Yeah, he watched Stripes this time.
I see.
Another comedian playing in a military movie.
All right. Hey, get that Google Drive up. Let's do that. Let's crunch those numbers, David.
Oh
You're in
man,
that
I
position
forgot.
now.
I'm in the position now.
Yeah, I'll give you the numbers and you can crunch them. How's that sound?
Yeah.
We got a 9.5. We got a 9. We got an 8.5. We got an 8, and we got an 8.
9.5 plus 9 plus 8.5. 8.6. It's 8. The average is 8.6.
All
I
right.
think that's a good score.
So I will simultaneously try to pull up the drive. I should have prepped for this because I forgot that
Don't worry about it.
I'm the backup. Here we go. All right.
So where does that fall with our the other films?
All right. 8.6 puts us, let's see, tied with Tropic Thunder.
That's weirdly appropriate.
Both Vietnam movies.
Vietnam movies.
And just below that,
Both Vietnam comedies.
Yeah, what a weird. Although this one was definitely more of a dramedy.
But still, that is a
Thunder
weird
was straight up comedy.
That is still weird.
You know, it is weird. Of all the movies to fall next to, so Tropic Thunder also had an 8.6. Just below that, an 8.5, we had Live Free or Die Hard, one of the Die Hard franchise.
All right.
So let's look at what we have above and below it. So above, let's see, we have Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, which was a pre-released episode. So above that, we have The Fisher King, which we just released.
All right, another Robin Williams.
The Fisher King with an 8.8. So just below Live Free or Die Hard, another 8.5 with Eastern Promises and Rain of Fire at 8.4.
I'm surprised that one scored that high. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Rain of Fire, 8.4 out of 10.
Hey,
Okay.
it's an amazing movie.
I kind of want to revisit it,
No, it's
honestly.
very cool. I actually just put in an Amazon order for movies, and Rain of Fire, along with a few Robin Williams movies, was on that. So, all right, yeah, I think that's appropriate. Even though I would have put it a little higher, I am definitely not upset with that placement. I think both that and Fisher King deserve a little higher, but that's just me. Yeah. All right, critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Good Morning Vietnam has a 90% with an audience score of 82%. On Metacritic, it has a 67 and an audience score of 7.8. And on IMDb, it has a 7.3.
Weird.
So good to great reviews overall. Like if you really take a good toll.
Well, IMDb was lower than I was expecting. I thought with the other ones, I thought that was going to at least be over an 8.
I thought Metacritic was a little lower than I was expecting at 67. That's still...
Metacritic's almost always low, though.
Yeah, but it's that I was expecting at least in the 70s for this one. 67's still in the green, so it's still good.
It's almost like word of mouth is doing more work than some of these reviews are, because I've heard nothing but like amazing reviews for this.
Yeah. Box office. This movie released wide on January 15th in 1988. I know I said this was a 1987 movie, but it released in limited release in 1987 at the end of the year, and then opened up in more theaters in January of 1988. Also playing at the time were Three Men and a Baby, Moonstruck, For Keeps, ? And Return of the Living Dead 2. So a lot of movies that were kind of like...
Was that Bruce Willis movie, the Moonstruck one? That's a comedy.
No,
that he was in, right?
Nicolas Cage, I think.
Oh, Moonstruck. I was getting it mixed up with something else.
Yeah. Moonstruck is Nicolas Cage and Cher, I think. Let me make sure.
No, you're right.
I am.
What am I mixing it up with? I know there's somebody out there screaming like, "Oh, it's that show or that movie."
Yeah. All right. Let's guess it, guys. Noah, what do you think?
What did you say the budget was?
Oh yeah, 13 million at the time. This is 1987. I did not adjust for inflation, so just,
whatever it says there.
Yeah, 13 million.
Okay. Let's.
And this is just domestic. There's no worldwide. There's no worldwide numbers reported for this one. It's just domestic.
By the way, for the listeners, Bruce Willis was in Moonlighting, not Moonstruck. Moonlighting.
I am gonna guess 30 millions.
30 millions. 30 millions. Arena, you're gonna box Noah in again.
I will always.
Let's go with 20.
20 million.
Yeah.
David.
I'm gonna go high. I'm gonna say 100 million. I'm gonna say this movie freaking smashed it.
I'm gonna say you suck.
Why?
David, you're right.
Woo!
123 million.
How?
Wow, and I was still off.
Whoa.
How?
I kind of alluded to this earlier in the episode. If y'all are paying attention, I was like, this really turned Robin Williams into a star.
Well,
they had to make some money.
Well, it doesn't have. It can make a lot of money outside of theaters.
Yeah, this movie did extremely well. As I said already, it opened limited, gained momentum, then opened wide, and really started to kill it at the box office. And I don't know how much it made worldwide. It probably didn't make much at all. But just to make 124 million domestically in 1987 for
insane.
a comedy is very good. Like, it did extremely good numbers.
Ludicrous.
I know. It really did shoot Robin Williams. Like, he was already on a good path to stardom, but this one was really like I feel like the big breakout moment where it's like, this guy's something special.
That's what I researched and discovered was this.
Like, he was most well known for Mork and Mindy.
But that didn't launch him into stardom. He was making like consistent money at this point.
That got him noticed, though, is what I'm saying. Like, that was like, he is widely known for that.
Yeah. No, I know that. I'm not saying that was what really got him in the limelight. I remember listening to a long podcast on his whole life, and it was Mork and Mindy that kind of brought him in the limelight. He got some movie roles. He was not uncomfortable in life, but he was still like not making big bucks, right? It wasn't until this movie that
he didn't even make a lot on this one.
No, it was after this that gave him the stardom he needed to like be an A-lister. And before
he made like a couple million on this movie.
Only a couple. Can you imagine out there, you listeners out there, just a couple million? Just a couple million.
For the performance he's giving, I'm like, this guy deserves a couple million. Like,
it's weird to think in terms of like people who are working their butts off and not getting millions of dollars. But regardless, I think that when it came to this, before he was still doing stand-up at this point. He didn't even have to. Like, he was... after this, I think he started doing less and less stand-up and focused more on the acting career because he had so many big roles, but...
Yeah, big hit. Any franchise talk for this one? What do y'all think?
I can't imagine they would be. There's only one Vietnam War.
So, believe it or not, there actually is a canceled sequel for this one. They had the script fully done. It was the guy, Mark Frost, the guy who wrote or helped co-create the Twin Peaks TV series.
Interesting.
Yeah, they had completely created or finished the script. It was good to go. Even Robin Williams, I think, liked the script. He had a couple issues with it, but it was, and this was kind of around the time when Robin Williams got his Oscar.
Man, he was really hitting it big time around this.
Yeah, so Robin Williams is starting to hit it big here, so I think he started to lose interest in doing a sequel, and this was a Buena Vista movie, which is owned by Disney, so they I think they kind of swept this thing under the rug, but it was going to be, the second movie was going to be called Good Morning Chicago, and this is quoted from Wikipedia, but I've verified it elsewhere, so I know it's legit. But it was the film would have featured Williams reprising his role as Cronauer as a journalist at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. The project was eventually scrapped due to disagreements between Williams, Levinson, and Disney over the film's direction. So yeah, there you have it. Are you listening, David?
Who would have guessed, though, honestly? Like, that this was something that they had planned. I think it was a smart move, honestly, to not do a second
weird.
one.
Like, it follows a similar thing. It was like a contentious time, and it would make sense for him to come around and, add weird commentary and shed light on things during this time period, I guess. It sounds a little more dull than...
Then they would have made a third movie where he's like in the war in Afghanistan, and like there would have been
he's just always following
all the wars,
but before they happen, just like
good afternoon, Iraq.
Yeah, good. Honestly, like 2003, we're gonna have an older Robin Williams.
Yeah. But yeah, how would y'all feel about a sequel to this? Would you have watched one, or would you have been into that?
I would have watched it if it had Robin Williams. Yeah, but I don't. I think they had something a little special with this one.
Yeah, I feel like almost continuing this, it would diminish the ending of Good Morning Vietnam, where it's just like it would take away that melancholy perfectness of the ending of this film that we just watched. Even though we know that he goes on to do other things, it's still kind of nice to just like he flies off into the sunset and that's the end of this story. Like, I don't think this needs a sequel in any shape or form. Are we in agreement there?
I would agree too. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, we did not get Good Morning Chicago. Kind of glad, even though that's I'm kind of curious about it. Apparently, that script is still locked up in the Disney vault somewhere, so it does exist. But without Robin Williams, why would you ever watch something like this?
Yeah.
Like, no, thank you. Like I don't think that's ever gonna come to pass. Like unless they are the ideas are completely dry, which actually maybe they are. Maybe they will dust that thing off. I don't know. But. No, I don't want to see a sequel. I'm glad it doesn't exist. I'm glad this is a standalone thing, and I think we all agree, right?
Yeah. I would agree.
All right, as you know, we're still in this Robin Williams mini-series, and we have one to go. And which one is that, David?
Arguably my favorite movie. If you've listened this far, I'm not afraid to say it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And it is Good Will Hunting. It is his probably most dramatic role he's ever done. And one that he may or may not have gotten an Oscar for.
Can I clarify that slightly? I don't want to say the most dramatic role, but I will say the most effective dramatic role. Because I think he's tried to go hard into the drama before multiple times. But this one, I feel like it's like...
It's one of the ones, though, where he doesn't eat... Like, there are very few moments where he lightens it with comedy like he normally does. Like, in Good Morning Vietnam is a prime example.
I feel like this one, though, is the definition of the hitting the bullseye in terms of, like, nailing that dramatic performance.
Wait, this movie?
No. Good Will Hunting. Two goods. One after the other.
Yeah, that's true.
This one's less... This one leans a little more into his comedic sensibilities, but does have some of that dramatic.
Whereas Good Will Hunting is definitely more drama. There's almost no comedic. There's a little bit. There's a hint.
No, it's there, but it's very natural. And we're reviewing it already. No, we hate this movie.
I am
we
so
hate
excited to talk about
We
it.
hate it. Yep, next week, Good Will Hunting. Yeah, it's... I'll just say this. There is evidence of people wanting to make a sequel to this one, but it is one of the less strong cases for a sequel than we normally talk about.
Stronger than the Fisher King.
Stronger than the Fisher King, which had no designs on a sequel whatsoever. There actually was talk of some sort of Good Will Hunting sequel, so that does exist. But it'll be more like it'll be more of an episode where we just review the movie and talk about,
Just think of Fisher King as a sequel to every other Robin Williams movie.
Yes. Robin Williams, the franchise. It's
Yeah.
It's one of it's one of those. Okay. Yeah, exactly. I can't talk. It's the end of the day. I'm
Come on.
losing it.
Finish strong. Finish strong.
Good Will Hunting.
Woo.
Good Will Hunting. Was that good?
Perfect.
Good
All
enough.
right. Next week, Good Will Hunting. See you guys.
Later.
Hey, this is not a test. This is rock and roll. Time to rock it out from the Delta to the DMZ.